And with that, Matt Hasselbeck is joining us, and he's joining us live. Okay, so I want to get into the Caleb Williams thing before I get into the Jalen Ramsey thing, is that I've always felt this, even with my kids, when I had 6 different kids. If they were struggling, little unstable, stuff's in their head, number one rule was just stabilize them. I'm not worried about growth. Just let's stabilize. And I tend to believe that with quarterbacks. With a young quarterback, I'm not looking for growth. With Caleb Williams, it was such a mess last year. Just cut the sacks in half. I don't care about anything else. So maybe I'm being a little over the top, but when people suggest they want him to go to 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards, I'm like, I don't care. The sacks are everything to me. How does that land for you?
Well, it's certainly number one. You got to walk before you can run is how I would say it. But I like to give quarterbacks usually 2 or 3 things to really focus in on and improve on from one year to the next. I think that's what helped me the most. Sacks would definitely be at the top of the list. Sacks hurt your team. They hurt your offensive line. They hurt morale. They hurt your own personal, like your physical, your body. But it's also very bad on the defense, that field position game. So it's this idea of protect the team. Sacks are an absolute killer. I thought if we were assigning blame to why so many sacks last year in Chicago, the majority of the sacks were not the fault of the offensive line. They were the fault of the young quarterback. It's very common. It's not special to Caleb. We've all lived it. And that's an area that he needs to improve on. And I think he probably will, but it needs to be pretty significant.
When you say he's got to get better, is that pre-snap? Is that holding the ball? Some guys there's people open. They just don't, they're seeking a bigger play. When you watched him, what did you see? Why was he inducing sacks?
Well, I think early on, his eyes were in the wrong place. It didn't look like he had a clear grasp of the protection schemes. I think that was a big part of it. Now they made the head coaching change. They made the offensive coordinator change. His position coach, was in the room with him calling plays. The offensive coordinator knew, and I think they simplified it and they brought it down. But I think what got him into trouble in the second part of the year was he trusted in his athleticism so much. Like you saw these things where he got away with it at USC. You're not going to get away with it in the NFL. And I think that's one of the hard things for quarterbacks who have great mobility. I would say it's great mobility in college, and it's just kind of like good mobility in the NFL. And there's a fine line there. But I think he needs to play on time more than he did, and maybe a little bit less of the playground stuff. Save that for when you absolutely need it.
Yeah, it reminds me, Matt, a little of golf, where everybody wants to buy a new driver, and it's like if your putting improves, your score improves. The driver's not going to win you strokes. It's all around the greens, right? So I think with Caleb, I don't worry about his driving. You got to make the putts in the red zone.
Well, it's what is it? Putt for dough, drive for show. I would say in a similar way, somewhere on that list, I think number 2 for me would just probably be overall leadership. Like we're looking at you. I mentioned body language. Like that bothers me. That really bothered me how he handled that last year. But then also you can't miss the layups. You can't miss the free throws. He's going to have splash plays, but he's also going to miss some wide open guys, or he did last year. And I think that's another area, probably that third area that I think he needs to improve on.
All right. So been on this for a while. The Rams, the Eagles, and the Chiefs spend all their money on offense. The league 10 years ago, after that CTE check they wrote, moved to benefiting the offense. So there's limitations. Even a great defense. A couple years ago, the Niners had a great defense. They faced Mahomes. He ate them alive. There's just limitations on what a great defense can do because of rule changes. So the Steelers this morning said, we're going to spend even more money on defense. We'll move off Minka and get Ramsey. It's like, guys, how about just move off Minka and go get more offense? So what do you make of the Jalen Ramsey move to the Steelers?
Now, listen, the Steelers are just going to do what the Steelers do. They do not care about the rest of the league. They don't care about what anybody else does. They say, hey, we're the Steelers. This is how we operate. So I don't think that's going to change. But I do think this. It looks like they're building a team to stop the Cincinnati Bengals. Like when I look at them, I really feel like they're coming up with like, what is our identity going to be? It's almost like they have confidence in what they have. Like what we have can take care of the Baltimore Ravens. wins. Like, we're good. But, like, man, I don't know how we're going to stop the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I do believe that there's a fear there of, like, personnel-wise, we don't match up well with them. And the Steelers and some other teams that have always been, like, 34 defenses, 3 down linemen, 4 linebackers, they're playing more of this 4-2-5. 4 down linemen, 2 inside, or 4 rushers, 2 inside backers, and 5 DBs. And I think what kind of DBs is where they now have some flexibility. They basically have 3 corners to go up and fight, kind of like that Joe Burrow 3 wide receiver set. So I think that's a trend league wide. Certainly the Steelers look like they feel pretty good about that trend as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, listen, if I'm going to give you some confidence about it, I do think that there's a play here for the offense. Like Arthur Smith, identity. Last year, you saw he went with a lot of 12 personnel, 13 personnel, meaning 2 tight ends in the game or 3 tight ends in the game. I think they just want to get a little more talented at that spot. 3 different guys. They've got Freiermuth. They've got Darnell Washington, who's a joy to watch in the running game. He's a monster. And then they go get Jonnu Smith, a player that I think is more wide receiver than he is tight end. Arthur Smith's been with him a few times, loves him. I know that as the league goes to kind of what I was talking about, 5 DBs on the field more, the Steelers and Arthur Smith look like they're saying, oh, okay, you want to get cute with 5 DBs? We're going to smash it down your throat. We're going to have a bruising running game, and we can still throw it with these guys, shifts, motions, all that kind of stuff. It's identity for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, we don't care what the rest of the league is doing. We're doing what we're doing. And I think having a clear identity is very helpful.
I think obviously people have been hiring offensive coaches more than defensive coaches. Whenever there's a big opening, you always see 4 offensive guys for a defensive guy. And that's not to say guys like DeMeco Ryans can't work on the other side. But I was also thinking about something the other day, is that there's a lot of people, Mike McDaniel came from the Niners. Shanahan may do a lot of motion, but he's really like his dad. He's all about physical run games. McVay's a culture guy. Shanahan's a culture guy. Vrabel's a culture guy. Dan Campbell's a culture guy. The Harbaughs are culture guys. Pete Carroll's got more of a culture guy. Is that I look at Miami and Mike McDaniel, and it's like he took the Niners, he went to Miami with a similar quarterback, a smaller guy, not a huge arm, moves a little, accurate. But I don't think he's built a culture. I think it's all sizzle and no steak. And Miami, to me this year, when I hear about coaches in the hot seat, I'm like, I look at Miami, and all I hear, the media love Mike McDaniel, but there's no there. And I think we're moving into a time in the NFL, culture beyond just schematics matters. And that Mike McDaniel may be clever, but the physical culture and component of that Niners offense, he didn't bring it to Miami. And I don't buy them. And I think they probably finished 4th. And 2 years ago, they were the talk of the league. Where are you on Miami, McDaniel, the motion, Tua, the sizzle? Because it's not working and it's going backwards.
Are you saying 4th in the AFC East? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. That's bold. I'd put him 3rd. Listen, culture matters 100%. I think it matters more than X's and O's most of the time, especially in football, especially when you're in a city like Miami with all of the distractions that are down there. You're not in Green Bay, Wisconsin or something like that. So the distractions are real. That's a real thing. I kind of believe in Mike McDaniel. I kind of believe in him as a coach. I even believe that he can be the right culture guy. But no, it's listen, they're swimming upstream just a little bit, even in their division. The Buffalo Bills, like everyone thinks that, hey, that's going to be the winner in that division. The Patriots are vastly improved this year. They clearly have an identity. You just look at the teams last year that had double-digit wins. The AFC is tough. 7 teams are going to get in. An explosive team like the Cincinnati Bengals didn't even make the playoffs last year. The Steelers clearly got better. The AFC West is talented. If you don't win in Miami, a team with a great fan base that expects to win and they've got fireworks, yeah, people are going to be calling for your job. That's going to be the nature of it. But the creativity and the identity of what they can be offensively, it clearly is there. Like it's the potential is there. It's an interesting thing that you bring up. I don't know that I would say fourth. At the end of the day, I feel like he was hired, though, to get Tua back on track. He did a pretty darn good job of that. I think they just need to take a next step. And sometimes it's just tough. Late in the year, those warm weather teams, they don't perform at the end of the year the way that they did at the beginning of the year because they got to go on the road and play somewhere like Buffalo or New England. That'll be the test for them this year.
Matt Hasselbeck. It is a Monday. He's at an undisclosed, very nice location, which I'll be close to in a couple days. It is great seeing you, my man.
It's Nantucket. Just say it. Now I just outed you on your vacation.
All right. Matt Hasselbeck, who's been a joy since he came to the show. I appreciate it.